Well, glad to be back on the show after about a month standing in on the morning show. Thank you for joining us today. I am Nifemi Okuntoye. You can join the conversation right now on X, formerly Twitter, using the hashtag Beyond 100 Days. Remember to tag at TVC News On. We have an update on the troubled former governor of the Central Bank. Godwin Emefiele can now travel out of Abuja after the FCT High Court sitting in Maitama varied his bail condition. Mr. Emefiele had, filed for a variation of his bail condition, which restricted him to Abuja. Justice Hamza Mohazu says he can now travel outside Abuja, but must remain in the country. And in another development, the federal government has amended the charges against the former CBN governor from 6 to 20. The charges against Mr. Emefiele are now criminal breach of trust, forgery, conspiracy to commit forgery, procurement fraud, and conspiracy to commit felony. Still on court stories from Nigeria today, a 5-member panel of the Supreme Court led by Justice Kudirat Kekereekun has reserved judgment on the appeal filed by the People's Democratic Party in Kaduna State and its governorship candidate Mohammed Ashiru Isa. In the appeal, Mr. Isa wants the court to overturn the concurrent decision of the lower court and declare him winner of that election. The Supreme Court also dismissed appeal filed by ADC and its governorship candidate Nafi Bala, challenging the election of Inuwa Yahaya as governor of Gombe State, following the withdrawal by the appellants. The Apex Court also adjourned to Friday for judgment in the other appeal filed by Jibrin Bade of the People's Democratic Party. Let's also tell you that a federal high court sitting in Abuja has fined the police 50 million naira over alleged violation of the fundamental human rights of Professor Zainab Abiola. Also affected by the fine is one Engineer Ibrahim, who is said to be the son of a retired Inspector General of Police Usman Baba. This was contained in an enrollment of Order of Justice Modupe Adebiyi dated 19th December 2023. Apart from the fine, the defendants were also ordered to tender a public apology to the applicant in 2 national newspapers. The respondents paraded the applicant in a nightgown. According to the judge, the judge held that was a flagrant violation of her rights, and the order was signed by Umar Salamatu. Our principal registrar, Professor Zainab Abiola, had asked the court to declare that the arrest, torture, and detention by the officers constitute a flagrant infringement of her fundamental rights, as there was no suspicion or proof of any criminal offense. And away from that, the anti-corruption war of President Bola Tinubu has continued to gain momentum with the recent scandal in the Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation Ministry. The president has now suspended all administered programs by the National Social Investment Program Agency for a period of 6 weeks in the first instance. According to him, this is to aid the ongoing investigation of alleged misconduct in the management of the agency and its programs. Investigations are ongoing with the EFCC over the alleged 585 million naira transferred into a private account by the suspended minister Betta and the suspended NSIPA boss over the alleged 17 billion naira scandal. There's also the searchlight on the alleged 44 billion naira fraud of the former minister Sadiya Umaru Farouk. The president has also assured patients from Nigerians that through investigation, or rather thorough investigation will be done and made public when the EFCC completes its task. I'm joined on the program to examine the alleged scandal in that ministry. Legal practitioner and public affairs analyst Abubakar Kurawa joins us live from our Abuja studio. Mr. Kurawa, thank you for joining us on the program this evening. You know, the bone of contention with the leaked memo is Chapter 7 of the Federal Government Financial Regulations, Section 713, that clearly warns that public and personal money should in no circumstance mix, and that an officer who pays public money into a private account is deemed to have done so with fraudulent intention. But we've seen some documents, released by Track NG, releasing a breakdown of how some 10 billion naira federal government payments were made to personal accounts in 2022. What really do you make of this development as a lawyer?
Well, I also came across such documents. It is actually telling us that this issue of putting funds into private accounts is not something new. And I also conduct my private investigations or private investigations to enlighten myself more about the matter. And what I discover is that, well, in matters of emergency, not only ministries, all other departments and agencies of government, I was told that they also engage in such, especially when matters affect issues of emergency.
So when this happens, is there any law that backs it up, or it is an outright contradiction of the position of the law?
Well, it is not clearly a contravention per se, because this financial regulations are different from laws. Any government agency or a government can sit down and decide to issue regulations to guide the operations of some of its activities for convenience purposes. In this regard, I may not categorically say that this is a contravention of the law, because the law also permits the agencies to draw such rules and regulations that will ease their operations.
But the law clearly states here that, it is deemed when such monies, when public funds enters private account, it is deemed to have, such individual has done that, is deemed to have done so with fraudulent intention. So the people who made this law perhaps are trying to create a structure and a situation where no one is tempted to use public fund for personal purposes. When you look at the way the humanitarian intervention fund is structured, it does make sense that the money shouldn't pass through anybody. It should go directly from government account to the beneficiaries, right?
Well, that is true. But you will also agree with me, in a country like Nigeria, where so many people that are targeted to benefit from such interventions do not have an account, how do you, factor into that? There are instances I can recall clearly where the former vice president was seen giving out money in cash, talking about the trader money during President Buhari's administration. And talking about this issue of 585 million being transferred into a private account, I also find out as a fact that the money was actually not even released to that private account. The Accountant General advised that the normal procedure should be engaged. And I was told that the minister did as was advised. And the money actually went to the appropriate people, the beneficiaries. No money was missing, and nobody was deposited into any private account.
I didn't get your point clearly. Are you saying that the 585 billion naira wasn't actually paid to the project accountant?
No, it wasn't paid to the project. The Accountant General advised that normal procedure should be followed, not to deposit the money into the private account of the staff of the ministry. They now follow the normal procedure of taking the money directly to the beneficiaries. It wasn't deposited into that account. So as far as I know, that letter was actually not even used by the Accountant General Office.
I'm sure you've heard the president, raising significant concerns regarding operational lapses and what he calls improprieties surrounding payments to the program's beneficiaries. Are we possibly battling a major systemic failure in the ministry's operation?
Yeah, of course, there might be. Because if truly ministries are engaging into such practices, then there is need for an overhaul. There is need for a government to review the payment system, the entire payment system, not only of humanitarian ministry, but the entire ministries and other departments and agencies of government.
They say all you needed is a scapegoat to get things right. Do you think the suspended minister, has a way around this within the law?
Well, I want to believe that, the president actually acted on the fact that was presented to him. So if we say somebody is being used as a scapegoat, well, not really, Sha, but sincerely, I want to believe that if the matter is truly investigated, we may come out with astonishing facts that may unravel the whole thing.
We hear that the probe is now being widened to uncover various financial misconduct that might have been carried out since the ministry was created in 2019. What do you make of this new development?
I also had something. That's what exactly we are talking about. There is need for, of course, the president has been proactive in forming a committee to take care of this by appointing the Minister of Finance and the coordinating Minister of the Economy to look into the payment system of the entire agency of the federal government. And I think that will nip this in the bud.
So it also says that the fraud that we're talking about was carried out in the ministry, or that has been carried out in the ministry, is very massive. Spans several projects, programs executed over the past years, even from the past administration into the new one. We've seen the ex-minister, Sadia, the suspended minister, and Halima Shehu. We understand that they are not only the ones being quizzed. Several civil servants and ministry officials were also involved. Do you think we have a rich history of success with anti-graft agencies in cases of this nature? Because, usually it makes the headline, but then over time, from previous experience, you just stop getting all of the details. How well would you say we're fared in probing matters of this nature?
Well, sincerely, I must first start by commending the president for being courageous enough to even take the steps he took so far. In the past, we witnessed instances in this country where people have made away with big and probably bigger accusations. There were issues raised in President Buhari's government. There were issues raised in President Jonathan's government, but none of them was actually courageous enough with respect to take the steps that President Tinubu have taken so far in regards to anti-corruption in his own administration. The fact that he actually suspended the minister, it clearly shows that. It clearly shows that the president is serious about anti-corruption fight, and it clearly shows that the president will also be magnanimous to return those to office that are found not wanting in the investigation. And anybody that is indicted will definitely be prosecuted and be punished.
There have been calls to scrap the ministry completely. We'll talk about that after this break, and also the way and manner the memo was.
That is completely out of place. That is completely out of place. The ministry is much bigger than any individual. Yes, sir, I'm hearing.
Hold that thought. We'll be back after this break for more on this conversation. Stay with us, everyone.
Ahmed Tinubu do solemnly swear
Attention is turned to the scandal in the Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation Ministry. And my guest is legal practitioner Abubakar Kurawa, live for us in our Abuja studio. You don't seem to buy the idea of completely scrapping this ministry. Some say, you know what, if the rot is that bad and all of these monies that are meant to help people are actually going into the pocket of certain individuals, you know what, just shut it down and let's make better use of the money.
Well, you know, Nigerians, we have very, very fertile imaginations. But sincerely, I do believe that the ministry is very, very strategic and seriously important. People have benefited a lot from these exercises, from the projects, from the activities of the ministry. I know so many people that have benefited in not really small ways. You may think that the money that they are giving to the people is small to you or to somebody that is comfortable. But there are people in this country that 1,000 naira make a whole lot of difference to them. And these programs, the programs that are mostly anchored by the ministry, is targeting those kind of people, the most vulnerable members of our society. So to say that after all this, all the activities, all the efforts, all the money government have expended in securing data, doing whatever it takes to make sure that we get to the root of the most vulnerable, making sure that we have, in fact, for security reasons, even scrapping this, I don't think it is really good. It's not good, because our society really needs this kind of intervention. People are really in need of it, and it is getting across to the people. You may not say entirely the schemes or the programs are 100% perfect, but who is expecting perfection in this life? So sincerely, the ministry shouldn't be scrapped as far as I'm concerned. Rather, measures should be put in place to prevent such occurrences.
You know, talking about the occurrences, we're talking about the nation battling multidimensional poverty with over 100 million people. And then you're wondering, how do people even have the guts to steal money meant for the poor? Is it corruption in the system? Is it that we have individuals who do not understand, you know, the integrity required of leadership? And do you think we even have people in power who really understand, you know, the relevance of their positions and how important it is to be able to reach out to the people for whom they were appointed or elected to provide leadership to?
Well, this is a holistic issue. It affects everybody. It affects every single individual in this country. Because if you look at the political system that we are operating, for someone to be somewhere, the processes are really tiring, sometimes even frustrating, extremely difficult. So that may have contributed to the desire of people to take from the public till. Also, what we're supposed to do in this country, I think it is very, very paramount to engage anybody who is aspiring to be a leader into some kind of programs or like training something to make sure that people really understand that they are doing service to their own country. They are there to serve more to the nation than to themselves. I think that may have gone a long way. But sincerely, the system itself is not really, well, that's my own take. Yeah.
Let's talk about how this memo got leaked in the first place. The reason why the scandal in this ministry blew open wasn't because the system flagged it, you know, but because there were allegedly grievances on the inside, which led to the leaked memo. You know, some have said this revolution is merely a function of infightings within the system. The fact that the memo ordering the payment of 585 million into a private account, you know, was leaked a few days after Dr. Edu ordered the suspension of an official for alleged financial impropriety. What does this say about the concept of whistleblowing and why we must, you know, also build a system that is able to detect fraud by itself without relying on, you know, such alleged infightings?
Well, I think one of the apparatus that might be deployed to detect fraud, or at least to minimize it, is information technology. It happened in so many places. There are agencies of government in this country that we know that used to be highly porous that used to be an avenue of siphoning government money. But today, even if they are doing it there, it has been brought to the barest minimum. So I would have suggested that government should make sure information technology is firmly rooted and established in all the departments and ministries of government, so that whatever anybody is doing anywhere, it will follow through the same process. It will just be like an auto-run, an automatic system. So nothing will go wrong if we are able to put something in place like that.
So I'm going to ask you a tricky question, because it's hard when you see when appointed officials, excuse me, are appointed officials are suspended. It's hard to find them reinstated. What do you think would happen in the coming days, specifically with Dr. Ed?
Well, I want to believe that the president, as proactive as he acted when he suspended the minister, will do the same by bringing her back, because he happens to be a pace setter. From the look of things, he happens to be a pace setter in doing so many things. The way he acted the day he was sworn in as a president of this country, the way he responded when there were outcry about some of his appointees, I also believe that it will be like that when the investigation is completed. Those not indicted will be reinstated back in their offices. Talking about Dr. Betta Edu in particular.
So your trust is on the president or on the institution, the anti-graft agency, that is, because she has some hurdles to cross. She has to come out clean from this investigation. Don't you agree?
Which I do believe by the grace of God she will, because from the records I have so far, from my little findings, I do believe that she may not be found wanting. I strongly believe that. And I also believe that with the exhibition or with the way the president has been handling the country from the day he was sworn in to date, he will also put her back in office. He's a pace setter, definitely, and we believe he will do that.
Mr. Kurawa, there's the demographic angle to this conversation. The fact that we're talking about perhaps one of the youngest ministers in his administration. And then all of the three, individuals who have been invited are all female. How important is this? How much burden do you think the EFCC and ICPC carry to be able to accurately, mirror what has happened in this ministry, to be able to protect this demographic that seems to be in minority?
Well, I do not look at it from the perspective of demography, whether it is a lady or whether it is a guy, whether it is a man or a woman that is actually involved in whatever, the cross should only be borne by him. And talking about the capacities of EFCC and ICPC to investigate this matter and bring out the details of it, I do believe they have the capacity. I am confident that they will be able to fish out whoever is guilty and who is not. And I am confident they will be fair in their investigation and they will be just in their presentation to Mr. President.
All right, so the president earlier suspended Dr. Betta Edu after coming under attack over a leaked memo on 20th December 2023. And that revealed that she directed the Accountant General of the Federation, Oluwatoyin Maiden, to transfer 585 million naira to a private account owned by one Uniyelu Bridget, who the ministry claimed currently serves as the project accountant. We're following that development closely. The president has now frozen the operations of the NSIPA to further help this investigation. And all eyes are on this, particularly as we consider what happens in the coming days. Legal practitioner and public affairs analyst, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us on the program today, Mr. Abubakar Kurawa.
It's my pleasure.
And that's our program, everyone. You can watch it again at midnight and at 6 a.m. tomorrow. I am Nifemi Oguntoye.
Voted as the best TV station of the year. TVC News breaks into the core of every event as they happen. Following all nationwide big and impactful stories,